Call to order town board meeting from March 11th, 2014. Please stand for pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the time is 7:04. All right, we'll open it up with privileges of the floor. I'll go through them real quick here. Public has the right to address the town board during the portion of the meeting referred to as privileges of the floor. Members of the public wishing to speak during privileges of the floor may sign a sheet before the commencement of the town board meeting indicating his or her name, address, and proposed topic. Signing a sheet will dictate the order of the order in which the persons are recognized to speak and will assure the town clerk has correct spelling. Members of the public to restrict their comments to items of town business and are to observe proper decorum while addressing the town board. Persons become unruly or use inappropriate language or persist in speaking on items not related to the town business may be ruled out of order. Although there's no official time constraint, speakers may address one or more items in their comments. They should be considerate of others and try to limit their remarks to no more than 5 minutes so that all interested members of the public may have the opportunity to be heard. So I'll open up the floor at 7:05. No takers? All right. Okay, we'll close privileges at 7:06 and move on to business. Highway, Mr. Nick Morris Sr.
I think you've all got a paper in front of you with all the prices. The road work that has to be done, or whatever you decide that you want to do, and what we can afford. Any questions on it?
Can we get a quote from Joe Ryan too, from the county? Because the county may have county pricing too. I'm not sure if they're using the Gorman Group or Katie.
Well, this is the county, this is what the county price would be, Mike. Because we're working with the county on all these bids, so as far as that goes.
Sorry? This is the same pricing the county would get?
This is it, this is what the county would get. We're getting their prices as if we did a lot of work, you know, with, because they cover a lot of roads. So that's our benefit from doing business with them, you know. As you see, Willow Run now, what happens is, the under part is, fine stone and oil, and they roll it. And this, can be left this way, but it's not a good thing to do, because it will break up easier. And then, the one on top, or the one over the top of it, which is you're looking at, I don't know, the audience here, that doesn't hide this stuff. The one on top is, would be the finish coat over the top of the stone and the oil base, which gives you a nice job where it holds together. That's what we normally should do. You could just do the top one, and just, it would seal all the imperfections of the road. But it's not the practical way to do it. I mean, you gotta do it and have the base will cover all the holes if you put the base on. Now, the plaza totals out to like about $22,000 if you just wanted to do the plaza here.
Nick, what is rebate milling?
What is it, Joe?
Rebate milling, it says Rebate billing will be charged $25 per square yard.
That's, something different. That's if they, grind it all up and put it back down again.
So that's not part of the prices? that we
No,
have.
no, that's easy. They just wrote that in there, the way I understand it. They're not doing that with us.
All right.
Our figures are up on top here, everything that they would do for us. So, Shagbark, the cul-de-sac is not in top shape. We got some holes in the cul-de-sac. We could eliminate that, and we could have the county just go patch the holes and get away cheaper on that. And, Willow Run, it's a pretty long road, and you can see there, it's, 5,280 feet. And going all the way from one end to the other is the best way to do it. It'll all be done good, you know? So I don't know exactly, Mike, what did we actually have appropriated for the road work? Was it 100,000?
It was probably 80,000.
No, we got to figure 27,000 for the county for plowing and doing the grass, right? Out of that, so we don't have hardly anything to work with.
Right, so there's another option that I want to talk to the board about. Obviously, if we let this, one road, maybe two, could go another winter, but if it goes much further than that, the damage would be significant enough that this fiber mat and surface treatment wouldn't repair it, so there's a choice here. These two, Willow Run and Princetown Plaza, almost have to get done this year. Now, obviously, everybody understands who's been watching the news or actually lived through this winter that we've had an extremely rough winter. So the price of fuel has gone up. The amount of salt that everybody put down, again, there was a shortage of salt, so we don't have an estimate yet on what the final cost is for the winter of 2013 to 2014. So the money we may have set aside, and what I try to do is set aside enough that we could start preparing for this. I was hoping maybe we could stretch it over 2 years, maybe not. So one other option, and I've talked to Mike briefly about it, is taking a low-cost loan, maybe a 1% loan out, get them done, because if we wait 2 years, again, I think another winter like this one, more heaving, you're not gonna be able to fix these roads without a complete tear up, and everything. So, I need to talk to Mike in a little more detail about it, but I think there's a possibility we can take a short-term loan, not have to pay anything back for a year. So we'd have to take our savings this year, roll them into next year, and make sure we appropriate enough between what we didn't spend this year and enough next year. So, we could take the full debt and pay it off next year. So maybe with some very minimum financing costs. But again, it means going into debt, which is
Well, next
not a
year,
bad thing, but.
chances are next year, we won't have to do hardly anything, because all our roads are in good shape. These are the only roads here that we're dealing with right now that need work on.
Understood. Yeah, I do.
Yep.
Ruder Drive probably needed some repairs, right?
It's not anything serious. Up on top, there's a little patch up that has to be done. I was looking at it today, and what happens right now, it's hard to really judge anything. There's a lot of frost in the ground, and the roads are all distorted yet from the frost, and they will go down. The only thing that seriously has to be done that we can figure on before the coming winter is, which costs about $5,000, guessing at it, tar all the cracks in the road before next winter. What happens is the water gets in the cracks and it freezes, and that's what pops all your roads. That's where we're getting all these potholes.
Mhm.
So if you get them sealed up pretty good before the cold weather comes, keep the water out of them, we don't have that problem. And all our roads are pretty good. We don't have many potholes because I have been having the cracks tarred. Last year we did a few of them.
Yeah.
So, and I went around all the roads and Ruder Drive, like we spoke of, was okay. Vernon Drive is very good. It's just a matter of all these cracks that are coming in the road. And right now they will go down because LaFrosse has got them all up right now. And Normanskill is good. I got that down here. Van Patten Road is okay. Lower Run, we know we gotta do. Shagbark, we can let the cul-de-sac go, which was $5,000 on this figure here, which we can eliminate. And Brookside
Copy the budget.
is in good shape, it's just a few cracks in it, like we were saying before. Overlook the same way, it's just a crack, so we're not bad. Gregg Road
That's not ours.
is 700 feet of it is ours.
Yeah, but our good neighbors in Monterey.
Yeah, we just don't mention it because we take care of it. Okay?
Can you back the tape up a little bit?
If somebody has to use something they gotta take care of it, okay? That's about it. Now, these figures here, if you can do like you said, and get that 1% interest, and we get these done, we'll be in pretty good shape. And talking about the plaza, we're not digging the middle of it up. This is just coating the whole top of it and fixing a few spots that we got that are damaged, you know? There's a storm sewer in there that we were just mentioning. I think Louis mentioned it. Another storm sewer, the catch basin is sinking down. So, on the plaza here when you come in. So, the salesman here is a pretty good fellow, Dane Mellon, and I spent quite a bit of time with him. And what I will do is go over everything he's gonna do before he does it, and make sure he fix up all the things that are wrong before they do the finished work over the top of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's about it.
So, what we put in was 38,000 for snow and ice, which, you know, we need to keep in mind that we have the second half of the year,
Mhm.
and if next winter is any indication of what this winter was, that 38,000 is gonna get chewed up. So, and I put 60,000 in. I tried to have it raise it up, but it was driving the fund balance up too high. So, how long is this, it doesn't say how long the quote's good for. Is it 90 days or
What's
for
that?
the summer?
What?
How long is the quote good for? This is a firm price, right?
Yeah, before he, the price changes, you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, it's for the, they'll be doing this shortly, as soon as spring comes, what he was saying, like in June, you know. The only thing that we do have to, not this year, but Ruder Drive, we do have to, contact the homeowner, see if we can do that. Our salt, why we spending so much is that one problem on Ruder Drive for the county. They charge us a lot of extra money for salt and that.
Yeah.
So if we can get with a homeowner and see if they can do something
Yeah,
with
it's
that
actually-
water that's running in the road, that's not really, it's our problem because they're having the water run in our road.
Mhm.
So if we can have them do something like they did down lower in the road, that would solve those, beautiful. We have no problem on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, so we actually gotta write a couple of letters to a few.
Yeah, and I'll go there and talk to them and see if we can work something out, you know?
Mhm.
Okay, that's about it.
Thanks, Nick.
You guys have any questions? Doug? Joe? Lou?
Thanks, Nick.
Bob?
Thanks, Nick.
Looking mighty dapper too, Nick.
Huh?
I said you're looking mighty dapper.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting ready to go to work on the machine.
That must be your spring outfit, huh?
There you go.
All right, water department.
Another nice quiet month. Ice is
You might be
finally
borrowing
coming
money
out.
from me. to
The ice
pay
is finally
for it.
coming out of the tanks and, got there, so. We had Schenectady County Health Department was here a week and a half ago and did their yearly sanitary inspection and found everything in good working order and paperwork all fine. That, about it.
All right. So I know I'm talking to you, but just so we can, alert the public, and I'm sure the public experienced the same sticker shock as I had when I got my December National Grid bill.
Oh, December wasn't bad, it was January and February.
Oh my gosh, so,
Figured they went from 5 cents to 12 and a half and 23 cents we paid on everything this last month.
yeah, so just, so everybody's aware, especially the board, the cost of operating
Yeah.
jumped significantly.
We've gone through about 40% of the budget line already for National Grid this year in the first 2 months.
Yeah, and that's, well, I'm hoping we can make up some, as the sun rises a little higher in the sky now, but, on the solar, but we took a pretty good,
Yeah.
pretty steep to. steep
The
up.
solar is finally starting to pick up where, Giffords Church Road is, National Grid is providing us about 20 kilowatts and 100 kilowatts is coming out of solar.
Yeah,
Same thing with the well house, it's about 100 solar and 100 National Grid right now. So.
yeah. So, I know the money we saved on the refinancing now is, at least for a couple of months here, for the first half, the operations for, well, maybe we'll break even anyway, so. Anything else for, George, Doug, Joe,
No.
Lou, Bob?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, George.
Code enforcement. So for you folks who don't know, Mr. Marciniak left the town hall. Supposedly, I guess it's a personal issue or a health issue, I'm not sure. It was very abrupt. We have sent out, and it was actually it's probably running today and tomorrow, ran last week, a want ad for code enforcement officers, or code enforcement and zoning. I do have some resumes, I'll hopefully get a bunch more. It's a pretty skilled position. A lot of training, a lot of certifications are required, so. Anyway, I think that's all I have for code enforcement for tonight. Justice, I know Will's not here, so I'll touch right on justice. So Will's up and running. Doing pretty good. His office is settled down now. He's catching up on the backlog. As you know, we brought in the new security, so that seems to be working out just fine. At probably a quarter of the cost it was costing us last year. So it was like $256 a night last year. It's $98 a night this year. So some significant savings there, and it's all working out pretty good. So again, the court clerk, the judge, everybody's getting into a nice flow, moving processes in the backlogs, catching up. So I think he's in pretty good shape.
Where's the revenues? We don't see any revenues from it, like we used to get.
Reports?
Checks, yeah.
I can ask him about it. I don't have one. I thought he wrote one last week, but I don't have it. Oops, that's not it. Do you have the third page? There's a revenue page
On which one here?
on the budgets. This is water, that's savings. That's highway. on the last page. So this for the month of January is 5,000. This report that you gave me, I don't bring mine in, but this was ran on February 26th, so we don't see February in here, we don't see, obviously we don't see March yet. So,
That's mine.
yeah. Town planner.
The planning department has been continued to manage the projects. There's been a few applications for lot line adjustments and minor subdivisions. The planning board, Pat has been tracking down the status of the fees billed and paid for projects during the past year. Heather's been continuing to work on the E-code, and she's been helping clients with the firm maps and letters that they've received about the floodplain. The ZRC is working on defining the new hamlet zone, creating a purpose statement, allowable and prohibited uses, and defining the geographic boundaries. The planning department's completed the Princetown technology audit for the computers, laptops, and printer.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to look at the minor subdivision application from other towns so we can update our own outdated applications. And for the town hall procedures, Heather's been documenting step-by-step procedures.
So I do need, you, Heather, Sandy, Pat, to develop the process, whether it's a tool in Bass or whatever, so we can track our invoices and, money's received, money is owed. It's just, it just makes sense, we need to know, like, every month where we stand on who owes us and who doesn't owe us. Just so the board understands, or maybe that you already know about this, it's just a reminder, but, some of the outstanding bills last year that we owe for attorney fees and engineering fees are probably pushing 14,000. So, when we look at the fund balance, when we closed out last year, it's, even though we increased the fund balance, and I'm, proud of the board and the staff that we were able to increase the fund balance besides some miscellaneous spending, the fund balance would have been up, again, let's just say 10,000. If we were more aggressively tracking, what fees, permits, lawyers' fees, engineering fees, everything that was gone through the planning board. So to me, that's gonna be one of my major pushes this year, is to define that process and make sure we're tracking it. Because again, this is money spent that the town has done to, to bring in the lawyers, engineers, et cetera. And the expectation is that, the customers fulfill their piece of the bargain and pay us. So whatever the tool is we're gonna need, we need to develop, even if it's a spreadsheet, it should be pretty easy. I'm hoping that maybe yourself, or if you wanna take the lead on it, but we need to start tracking that pretty good. I mean, I'd like to be able to see it at every month and then, the meetings. Appreciate the work. I know you guys have gone through some old papers and getting ready to get rid of some, destroy some records, which, we'll lead to here in a little minute with Loretta, and the records management piece, but, appreciate the work you guys have been doing, so, thank you. Doug?
I'm all set.
Thank you, sir. Joe?
Thank you, Laura.
Joe, or Joe? Lou?
Thank you.
Bob?
All set, thank
All right. Thanks, Laura. Town clerk,
I'm good.
is life good for you now?
Yes.
All right. So, okay if I comment?
Yes.
So obviously now, I think, even though Sandy's a little bit shy about it, we're through the tax season, 90% of it, I guess, maybe a little bit more, but I'm sure there's some stragglers coming in. The office is up and running, it's running smooth. We're defining some additional policies. Again, we're, with the work that Heather, Joe, Loretta are doing, as far as records management, tracking papers, just defining some processes and procedures. And again, so I think you're in pretty good shape. But as a result, and I'll be asking the board tonight to do a transfer, it didn't come without a cost. There was a cost to get the town clerk's office up and running on such short notice, pretty much like 36 hours notice that, we need to turn over. So I'll be asking the board to cover some costs that were unexpected, but again, it was, to get the board or the town clerk's office up and running. And it had everything to do with getting passwords reset, programs reset, training. I know Lou, Joe, and some others came in even as volunteers to help mail out tax bills and everything. So I do want to, alert the town board that I'll be asking tonight for some additional funds from the contingency to fund the town clerk's expenses to date, and plus some, additional going through the year, so. But great job, Sandy. So,
Thank you, Sandy.
Mr. Doug?
Thank you.
Mr. Joe?
No, I would like to tip my hat to Sandy because she's been a real trooper and very cooperative, and it's much appreciated. Thank you, Sandy.
Mr.
Thank
Lou?
you, Sandy.
And Mr. Bob?
Yes, thank you, Sandy.
All right. I've added to current business Loretta Coolin and Heather Erwiller. As you know, we've asked both Loretta and Heather to jump in and give us a hand. We have a bunch of projects we've got going. So I'd ask, I guess, Loretta if she wants to, step up and maybe give us a quick highlight of what she's got.
Hi, guys. Thanks, Mike, and thank you guys for taking the time to allow me to share what I've been up to for the town. In January, I had the opportunity to attend the 3-day training with Sandy that was sponsored by the Association of Towns, and that was really good for me to have a really in-depth understanding of what is required for processes and also resources, so I can help with when we need to develop policies and procedures. Most folks know last year we had a big surprise when our server died. It was about a $6,000 unplanned expense. So Mike and I have been working on a request for proposal for the technology support for the town. And the idea here is that no more surprises, but we actually have a plan for hardware, software, get our computers, know where they are, get them up to speed, and be able to budget over time to have a solid infrastructure. Right now, it seems that we have a patchwork of computers and software, and we need to make sure that we have what we need to move forward. As part of this, not just developing the RFP, as Laura mentioned, we created a template for an audit, and I've gotten almost all, I think I have one left, of all the departments giving us feedback on all the equipment here, all the software that's being used, and I've compiled it into an audit, what we have to attach to the RFP, and I think they received a copy of the RFP, so all the councilmen have a copy of the RFP that we'd like to send out. The plan would be to send it to our current support company on this, as well as 2 or 3 other vendors who are supporting other town governments. So it's somebody who knows the rules and regulations for town government. And this ties into records management, which I'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, let me just interrupt. So for the board, of course, we don't have pages here, but at the end of the action register, you'll see the RFP.
For technology support.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So we've talked about this a little bit, but this is gonna be the official proposal going out to to our vendors, like we presented last week, or at the agenda meeting, Verizon came in. They have a plan. I did speak with another vendor, which I can't remember the name right now, but he does phone systems. So, you know, we'll spread this out as far as we can go. You know, Amis, EOS, or Eastern Office Supply. The neighboring towns, Verizon. I'd like to include Time Warner Cable. Again, so the idea here is so I helped Loretta, I mean, she took the lead on it, but probably 80% of our computers are Windows XP. So April 1st,
No longer supported.
they're no longer supported. So that's like, you know, buying a car that you just can't get parts for anymore. And it's not even you can't get parts. Nobody's gonna, they're not even gonna make them, you're not gonna get them. Just nobody's gonna support it. So we're at a tipping point here. So anyway, so Loretta's been working, you know, she wrote this up. We've asked for input from a few residents who are, you know, in the business to provide some feedback on, you know, what we, you know, some ongoing requirements. Again, cloud, you know, software services, security. I know security is big on everybody's agenda. So.
And part of this is, we're a small town, so we don't have a director of IT, we don't have an IT department. So we're looking for a vendor to partner with that can help us more in the line of a retainer basis versus time and materials. The way we're being billed now, we know is very expensive.
Yeah.
So we want somebody to come in, help us with what the infrastructure should look like, help us plan and budget for how to get from where we are now to an ideal platform, and then ongoing support. And obviously these presentations will come back to the board. These vendors will present to you to make a determination on how to move forward. Good?
Yep.
Another project I've been working on, as Mike has mentioned many times, is the records management policy. I think it was a year or so ago, the New York Department of State told the town that our current policy is woefully out of date. I think it's from the 80s. It's about 2 pages, and I was able to secure a template from the State Archives, which is the agency that governs records management for town government. The policy they sent me was about 80 pages. So obviously it's very extensive, what is required or what is ideal. I am working with our records management officer, Sandy, the Records Advisory Board, and Heather for the E-code piece and her insights to try to figure out how to move this mountain from where we are to where we'd like to be. Our recommendation is to phase this in. There's about 50% of the policy right now that we believe we can support and comply with, that we're going to present hopefully at the next meeting as the phase 1 revision. And then we're going to have a phase 2 and a phase 3. Phase 2 are pieces of the policy that we think we can develop internally or procedures. And phase 3 have much more to do with the electronic records management piece, which we'd like to wait to the response from the RFP. Very simply, right now we have a local area network, and if we stay there, there's certain policies and procedures related to that. If we go to a virtual or a cloud storage backup, it would be different. So we really want to understand what our platform is before we move forward. There's pieces of it we can put in place now. So that's our plan, and hopefully in 2 weeks you will have phase 1 for review. Some nice reading.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys are, as you're going through this, it's fairly dry, but, so just to add on a little bit too, and I think Joe's gonna have some examples too, where, you know, why is this good for the town is, you know, hopefully the leading question. Why is it good? Is it cost effective? You know, financially, what's the good side of this? So as we're seeing now, we're going through, one example is the E-code. You know, we're finding a lot of laws that were in this book, or not in this book, but they're in that book, or they're in this book, or the State Department's got another copy. So we're kind of all over the place. But if you kind of think of it as, you know, a lot of these laws haven't been updated in 10, 20, 30 years, whatever the example is, if you kind of look at it, it's like, every 5 years, you should go back and review your IRAs, your retirement. Refresh it. Is this not good? Change, conservative to a little more liberal or vice versa. Or to go back and look at your homeowner's insurance. You should look at your homeowner's insurance every 4 or 5 years. The reason is the world's changing, you need to keep up. Things get more expensive, things change. So as you look at your retirement or your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance, you're always trying to update what your will. Things like this should be always updated. And it's the same concept here at the town hall. The world's changing, it's a lot faster, a lot of things are changing, and we really need to, try to keep up with this. So while Loretta is working on the records management along with the Records Advisory Board, Sandy and the rest of the team, Joe, Lou, Doug, Bob, Heather are working on the E-code. We're trying to bring up everything up to 2014. So why is it good for the town is, unfortunately we live in a society where, everybody reads it to the letter. Everything's like, well, I wish everybody could live by the golden rule, but they don't. So you need to have your documentation, your laws, your policies up to date, so there is no question when, people come in and question what you're doing. Just like your will or your financial statements, it's pretty, cut and dry. This is what I want, this is what we don't want. So we're going to be talking a little bit later on about a different subject, but you'll see that there is some activities where we're going to be going back to looking at, what was included in, or what did this law mean, or what did they interpret this by. So, we're hoping that going forward, A, it's a good reason to update everything, just to bring it up to current. B, it's, probably legally sound, which turns into be financially sound, an investment to bring our documentation up to par.
I'd like to add, it's also good guidance for the staff and officials in town hall to know what the requirements are. I know a lot of the requirements aren't currently documented, so how do people know what they're supposed to store, where, when, how, why? So at least for the records management piece, same thing. I mean, we don't have clear guidance right now, so if things are not stored or they're missing, there's really no recourse that we have, and it's important that everyone know what the responsibility is, because this is governed by law. So it helps with compliance.
And just as another example, our previous law firm from almost 2 years ago, decided this week that they found another 16 boxes of records. So Mike's got, Mike Cuevas has got some very dull reading to do soon, but they're in the safe right now. So this is the kind of stuff, do we need it all? Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. It's up to, to the board, this board, the Records Advisory Board, to make those determinations of what is, and then there's a process too to get rid of, what's not required anymore. What do we need, what don't we need? So it's a pretty big task, and I appreciate Loretta jumping in and giving us a hand. Again, it's gonna be, financially, it's actually, actually pretty much costing us nothing for Loretta and Heather. Sad to say, but I appreciate it.
Let's not go there.
It's actually some great work, and it's a lot of work, so thank you. Sorry to interrupt you again.
That's okay. Another project I'm working on is very much related to this, is to document procedures. Mike has mentioned this too. Again, this is just good business practice. We currently don't have a lot of what in business we would call desk manuals, guides on how to do things. So even for coverage, if somebody's out sick or somebody leaves, like code enforcement now, if we had a desk manual, maybe somebody could jump in and cover at least an emergency situation until we have replacement. It also will formalize the fact that we are complying with what we need to comply if we have documented procedures. And what I think we'd like to leave as a legacy is not what some folks experienced recently with turnover, when there's a new administration or new appointees coming in, that they know what they need to do, they know where to find records, and here's how to, here's the contact for getting codes and sign-ons, and here's where here's how you process these things. So I've created a process and a template, and I hope to be working with each of the departments. Some of them are taking the initiative themselves. And I just started with the court clerk yesterday. And it'll just document the major procedures and what software you use and how to do it, and the timelines and the deliverables and that kind of thing. And there'll be something then to pass on to the next person in those positions.
And again, just to expand a little bit, so Warnie, and you'll see it tonight, because I'm gonna be asking, for the board to approve, transfer some funds, is that, with the transition, Sandy and her team came in pretty blind. Great effort, great recovery, but there was a cost to it. Now, if you had some manuals that said, okay, step 1 is turn on computer, step 2 is log in, it really becomes a whole lot easier. One piece that I'm hoping, as the town understands and the board understands, so for 2 years, we were pretty diligent in looking at asking people to document what they do on their timesheets, because we're looking for additional cost and efficiencies in how we operate the government. So one of the byproducts, which I'm hoping will come out of Loretta's work, will be, so once we've documented everything, now we get a really pretty clear picture of what everybody does. We may be able to drive some additional efficiencies in the town hall. You get either a workload balance, like Joe does 3 hours work on this and Bob does 7 hours work on this. Well, maybe we could reduce Bob's and pick up Joe's, or maybe Joe's can move over to Bob, and then that frees up Joe to do other work in town. So we're hoping to, not only by documenting what everybody does, is to drive, again, some costs and efficiencies, additional costs and efficiencies in there. So, I think from all aspects, the work that you're gonna be doing is pretty critical.
Thank you. And another piece of this is just from the residents' perspective, it's really nice if they can walk in on day one when a new person's in a position and not have to say, oh, I don't know how to do that, come back. So, we want to provide good service to the residents. I'm also very grateful that Mike and Paul and the rest of the ZRC has accepted me as a member, because it's a great learning experience for me. And I'm eager to work with Councilman Myers. We're supposed to be updating all the employee policies and handbook for all the same reasons.
Excellent. Mr. Doug? Thoughts?
Thank you.
Mr. Joe?
I would like to say that everything Loretta is doing, and I can't think of a better person in town to be doing what she's doing, but it's not anything that is not done, like at GE, for example, ISO 9000,
ISO standards.
operating procedures. You go down the line, if somebody leaves quickly, somebody can walk in and say, okay, where do I find this, where do I find that? And I think that this is something that we have to emphasize, that what we're doing is just getting with the program, basically.
And we don't have enough money or staff to have redundancies built in, so this is the
That's right.
best next mechanism to do it.
That's right.
Matter of fact, I think it's a requirement by anybody who's on publicly traded, that from an executive level, that there's recovery plans.
Mhm.
So if an executive, the board, half the crashes in a plane, that there's a recovery plan right
Right.
there. Somebody go open up the
Right.
manual and go, okay, this is the next step, this is what we do.
Right.
So it's just all good stuff, I think. But anyway,
So thank you, Loretta.
yeah. Mr. Lou?
Thank you.
Mr. Myers?
Thank you, Loretta, and I'm ready and been ready to work on that employee policy, get it done. We'll be in touch with you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Loretta. Who's next? Hello, Heather.
Hi,
I'm Mike.
it's nice to meet you. So most of my time has been spent on E-code, updating E-code for the last couple of months now. However, I've also worked on developing a manual for the town planner. Basically, in retrospect of what I encountered when I came into that position. So basically, this is how you start from A to Z when you walk in the door. Along with that, I have developed a tracking system that's basically a spreadsheet, but I'm looking to expand that into with Sandy's help and Pat's help, into a more online system where it's integrated into our permitting system that is being used currently by that code enforcement person when we have a code enforcement person. So that we can integrate all of the planning into one system. It doesn't make sense to have two different systems. So what I have right now is basically a stopgap measure, that's it. It's a very preliminary thing, and it's based on what I experienced when I got here as far as what subdivisions were going on and what I had information for. So that's done. The other thing that I've been working on with Mike is getting some capital budgeting started here. So long-term, you can plan your expenses over a longer time frame than an annual budget, so a 5-year budget. Along with that goes a strategic plan and some other pieces. Basically, as we go, we'll get the forms together. Department heads will see that. It'll be rolled into as one of their annual responsibilities to provide that information to the supervisor so that he can budget over a longer time frame, so that you can deal with the contingencies of roads, your IT infrastructure, and that type of thing over a much larger time frame. With that, that's really all that I have.
No, that's, first off, and again, I want to reiterate, how much effort and time you've been putting in. So, again, some huge thanks from myself personally and, hopefully the town. I do want to, expand a little bit on the capitalization plan. Again, with the RFP and some of the work like Nick is doing and, forecasting some of the work is, come the September, October timeframe, when we're building the budget, we're not going to necessarily be scrambling for, what are we doing? We've already got the plan laid out. I was talking to somebody and they were talking that, I guess they're on some school board and, they managed to keep the prices down and keep their costs down and everything, but they weren't doing any planning. So all of a sudden now they run up to a building that the roof's leaking, needs a new boiler, needs new windows, needs this, needs that, needs skill books, blah, blah, blah. So they were probably diligent in watching what they're spending, but if they weren't doing some planning, then how successful were they? So it's up to the board to, in my opinion, to be watching not only what we spend currently, but to drive and capture efficiencies where we can, but also keep investing where we need to in, in the infrastructure, roof, like Nick's got the driveway, or I'm sorry, the plaza. So it's important that we balance, conservative, fiscal conservatism plus, prudent spending. So it's, I appreciate your help on that too. I know Mike's helped last year a bit, so that's probably one of my biggest tasks this year is to start laying that out pretty closely. So thank you, Mr. Doug. Anything for Heather?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Joe?
Well, I would like to say that the town of Princetown benefits greatly from Heather's education and experience and all her energies in helping me with E-code. And she's been an absolute godsend, and I can't say it enough. And somehow I think we need to find a little bit of budgetary.
We're gonna get you snow globes when you move to Florida. You can shake and go. Yeah, I could be in Albany.
But anyway, Heather,
I told you can Skype me in.
You just don't get the effect.
anyway, thank you, Heather.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Lou?
No, I'm fine, thank you, Heather.
Mr. Bob?
Thank you, Heather, you are gonna be missed. You will.
There's probably nothing on the action register I haven't touched, so if you really want to know what else I haven't been doing, it's on the action register.
We did take some time to go through that.
Thank you.
So I asked the board, if you guys have any updates. I'm not gonna go through the action register unless you want to, but I think let's start down. Doug, any thoughts, updates?
No, I haven't heard anything. I called them again about the sign, but I think it's a waste of time.
All right.
What, Angela and Barbara? Yeah.
They haven't got any money. They're just like us, broke.
All right. Mr. Mr. Joe?
Well, I've had an interesting couple of weeks. About a month ago, I went to Dan Marciniak because working on E-code, the company in Rochester who we're working with said, hey, you have a junk car law, but it's nowhere to be found. And so, and then there was a couple of them. I went to Dan and I said, Dan, do we have a junk car law? Yeah, he pulled it out of a book. And it was this book, which is the 2010 Princetown Code. I said, oh, okay. But then, 2 weeks ago at the agenda meeting, we were going over the environmental quality law. And it referred to a 2006 law that was adopted. And so I went to the same code that Dan was using on his desk as our code enforcement officer, and I found the Princetown Environmental Quality Review that was dated 1977. Now that's 29 years out of date. And I'm saying our code enforcement officer was working to a code that old. Well, I just want to make a quick point that the code enforcement officer of this town was operating to a law that was 29 years out of date is evidence that records management in this town over the past 10 years has failed completely. This one example validates all Loretta Coolin's effort to revise the records management policy, and it underscores the value of this E-code project that will, once adopted, set the latest revisions of all of our laws in one place and available to everybody in town. So I think that we are moving in the right direction, and I just really hope that we can bring this to the point where we're going to adopt the new code, hopefully by the end of the summer. We'll see. But that's all I have.
Perfect. Mr. Lou?
Now, if we're talking about, I did get another bid for the roof of the state police. I think Sandy handed it out to you.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's got a copy of it. It's Mark's Roofing. It's very much in line with the other estimate we had. I need one more estimate that I'll have by the next agenda meeting, hopefully, so that we can discuss it at the next month's meeting. Maybe issue a contract or whatever we're gonna do with that roof. Definitely gonna need repair. The electrician's gonna be over there the end of this week, repairing the lights and finishing up out there, and he's also gonna be doing the gazebo, the LED light, that new light that he wants to put on with a photo cell on it. What else? I guess George pumped out asked George to pump out the garage again. I'm gonna get 2 more estimates to repair the garage, the state police barracks correctly, so we don't have this problem anymore. And George will be freed up to do his water work. The septic system went down again, the pump was replaced. Van Wormer put in a bigger pump, changed the wiring. I think we overpaid for it, my personal opinion. I see that. So that the water wouldn't get in there again. He didn't charge us for the pump, he charged $400 to move the electrical line up. I think we could have got it done a lot cheaper with the electrician that we're using over at the state police barracks. I'm kind of disappointed in what he charged us. So maybe we should be looking at somebody else in the future to do our work in the septic system. It goes down again. I think that's just about it for maintenance around the town hall. Sandy needs some more keys, I'll get them made from Wolf, he's on vacation this week. So Friday he's supposed to be back, I'll stop down there and get the keys made. That's all I have.
All right, so there's a couple vouchers in here for the electrician.
Yes, I don't know if he turned them in yet or not, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And I agree with you on
Van Warmer.
Van Warmer, because he's got 4 pumps in here, all different prices, and
Mhm.
plus an emergency.
I agree,
So
I agree with you 110%.
do you want me to take, do you want to call him? Because,
I'll
all
call him.
right,
He charged us $175 to pump it out, he charged us $150 before.
and then 300 and then 200.
Yeah. I know.
So, all right, and then, okay. Here, I forgot to hand these out, sorry. All right, well, thank you, Lou. Mr. Doug, anything for Captain Lou?
No.
Mr. Joe?
No, it's definitely- what's the difference?
There is none, but. Joe, anything for Lou? Any questions? for
Well,
Lou?
no, except to show that the electrical box that was in the tank, the gray water tank, with all of the thaws and freezes and everything that we've had, the water level rose up above the tank, and it's supposed to be waterproof, but I don't know if you can see, the water got into the electrical box and it shorted everything out, and that's what brought down, it burned the pump out, and we just had a hell of a mess with the septic thing. So Lou has been Johnny on the spot here, and,
That must be a French phrase, isn't that a hell of a mess? Just for,
well,
just
I was
for
gonna use
G-rated people.
a more appropriate metaphor, but I thought maybe I should stay
The
away.
problem is, he was the one who wired that pump up into that box.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be.
And it was
water.
supposed to be a waterproof box, but now the state law says you can't have that, a new
It was
system.
supposed to be up.
So we're gonna probably have to put out some bucks to have it relocated to the side of the garage out there. But anyway, I thank Lou for all, he's doing a bang-up job as our maintenance guy around here.
Absolutely. Bob, anything for Lou?
No, he's doing a great job, and
Absolutely.
I appreciate all he does.
Me too. All right, for myself, actually, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, that's all right, I just was gonna say, I wish that would have had the employee policy in effect as of recent for the last, all that's been transpiring here in the last week or two, but we will get it for you here
All
in the
right,
very near future. So,
excellent. Thank you, sir. For myself, just a couple of things. I thought I didn't get really a good time, but for the residents or people in attendance, at the back of the minutes, and I'm hoping to do this going forward, we've attached the abstracts, and just for everybody, the abstracts are actually just a list of the bills we're gonna be paying tonight, so you can see kind of what they are. You know, we can explain them if we need to, some of them are pretty self-explanatory. I'm gonna try to work with Sandy, so when we do the minutes and we put the minutes up there, that the abstracts will be attached to the back of the minutes. So month after month, the town should be able to say, you know, these are the abstracts that the town board paid. So if there's any questions, you know, we can, you know, refer back to them. And then along with another link out there is the monthly financials. So the trick is actually, they're all not in Word. So we gotta kind of do a merge of documents here, so, but we'll figure it out. Code enforcement, I think I mentioned this before, but if I didn't, just let me go over it again. So we've got a handful of resumes. Articles running again today and tomorrow, I think, 11, 12, 13, or 12, 13, 14, I can't remember. Doug, what we did last time is once we have our our list of resumes, we'll sit down and go through an interview process. We try to be, at least I thought it was fair, is everybody has like 2 questions. You ask the same questions to each applicant, you know, so we all hear exactly the same response, and then you judge them from there, and then you pick the top 3 and maybe do a second interview or something like that. But so I will probably be setting up some meetings to interview the code enforcement candidates. We're in the second week of March. Pat, we probably need to pick a date for the newsletter. I know I gotta get in touch with Carl and back it up a couple of weeks from there, but if he's at March or April 15th or so that's April 1st, we wanna get it out, so.
I'm figuring he's probably April 26th, that's usually when the Earth Day stuff is,
Yeah,
but we need to confirm it.
Exactly.
So, if that's the date, then I'd like to get it out probably the end of the week before. So that means I'll need, probably by the end of the first week in April, something like that. I'll need articles by.
so I target the end of March. So
Right,
you can-
target the end of March, and maybe I'll have them by the end of the first week in
Exactly, so
April.
I'll probably send out a note next week. Start backing things up a little bit.
Do I have paper and all that?
I don't know.
That was Norm's assignment.
Yeah, so I'll work on that. I don't know what the answer to that question.
And
So I need to get you-
toner.
And toner, and then also the hourglass people need some paper too, so
Yeah.
we'll work on that. One of the actions on the action register is the state of the town. So I think I'm gonna pretty much firm up the date, that'll be May 20th. So we'll publish that. Ben, if you could reserve the 20th for your, hopefully it's not a conflict. Let's look at my calendar here. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's the 20th. I think it's
It's the 20th.
the 20th, yeah. Can't find that. So, I think that's about it I think I've touched on everything else as we got through this. So the bigger items here is the RFP. We're gonna have, people coming in, do the interviews for the RFPs. I wanna bring Verizon back in, this new phone company, bring Time Warner back in. We're gonna do the interviews, so, I guess where I'm going here, the short answer is the board, I'll probably be sending out a couple of special meetings, so we're probably gonna be pretty busy now through May. So, tentatively reserve every Tuesday. Okay, so that's it for me. Any questions for me? Doug, Joe, Lou,
Fine.
Bob?
No, that's great.
Okay, let's move on to business. Motion to approve the February 11th town board meeting and the February 28th town board agenda meeting. So do I have a motion that the minutes for the February 11th, 2014 town board meeting, scratch that, 2013, are approved, and the same motion that the February 28th, 2014 town board agenda meetings, scratch the 2013, are approved. Do I
I
have a
will
motion?
happily make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Esposito.
Yes.
Councilman Gray.
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski.
Yes.
Councilman Myers.
Yes.
And Joyce is a yes. Resolution passed. Give me the high sign when you get a chance. No pressure.
That was probably.
Which is good, okay. So the next piece, folks, is, as you know, we're updating general code, so we're trying to, and there's, a number of chapters, and Heather's been leading the charge along with Councilman Drzinski. So we're reviewing them, reviewing a few, then we're gonna try to pass them, review a few more, pass them, so, we get a good sequence going here. So the following codes we reviewed last week. not last week, at the agenda meeting. So, again, the purpose here is, to say, yeah, we agree with these, and we're gonna park them over here and move on to the next ones. The final act will be, we accept, and I think the only exception to this in state law is that you have to do it all at once. The state allows you to pass in mass laws, with a single public hearing. Otherwise, technically, you have to go through each public hearing. Each law has to have its own public hearing, and it would just take years to do that, so. General code review, discussion in this case is chapter 13, appearance tickets. Do I have a motion? It's hereby resolved that the town board of the town of Princetown hereby directs General Code Publishing to revise the appearance tickets chapter as reviewed and approved on February 25th, 2014, and to prepare the necessary text for the local law for adopting in the new town code. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right.
Second that one.
Oops, Lou, second. Councilman Esposito.
Yes.
Councilman Gray.
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski.
Yes.
Councilman Myers.
Yes.
Councilman Joyce, resolution passed. Give us a high sign when you're ready there, Town Clerk, Fortune. Or give Bob the high sign. All right. Chapter 18, public assemblies. Do I have a motion? It's hereby resolved, the town board of the town of Princetown hereby directs General Code Publishing to revise the Assembly's public chapter as reviewed and approved on February 25th, 2014, and prepare the necessary text for the local law for adopting in the new town code.
So moved.
Councilman Bob, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Joe. Councilman Esposito.
Yes.
Councilman Gray.
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski.
Yes.
Councilman Myers.
Yes.
And Joyce is a yes. Resolution passed. Chapter 24, Building Code Administrative Enforcement. Do I have a motion? It's hereby resolved that the town board of the town of Princetown hereby directs General Code Publishing to revise the Building Code Administration and Enforcement chapter as reviewed and approved on February 25th, 2014, and prepare the necessary text for the local law for adopting in the new town code. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? No second? Do I have a second?
Can I just say something? I know we're in the middle of voting. Is that not something that we should give a little more thought to as far as what's just transpired here in town? I'm just a little hesitant on approving that. I mean, if we approve it, I think we definitely need to highlight it, to come back to it, because
That's right.
with us, with what's just happened, with the code enforcement and all, I think that there's a little too much authority given there. And I would like to see some of it reworded and maybe taken back and changed. That's just my feeling.
I agree on that too.
Is now the time to do that? Or is
Well,
it
that's
maybe?
why I didn't know. I just wanted.
See, that, I guess my concern is that if we slow down this process, but what you said, Bob, is correct. We can come back after this project is done and then address that and put a microscope on it. and
Then you
make
gotta
a
go
new
for
law.
then you have to go for a public hearing. to
That's
revise.
okay?
I don't
Does that
agree
not
with
double the work, though? If
I
we-
mean-
If we approve it now or pass it now, and then have to come back and make changes and then have to have it, is that not extra work?
Heather, what do you think?
If the desire of the board is that you want to amend this, this is the time to do it. If we just wait to the end, you're gonna spend the money to print this, for it to go to general code, to come back to you, and then you're gonna derail the end part of the process. So if you want to amend it, this is the time for us to amend it, any of these laws.
Okay.
Well,
But
that being said, I understand that people could be, you know, having some reservations about the code because of what happened with one individual. But I would really, if you wanna put this off maybe and examine it, I think what you're gonna find is this particular chapter is pretty much dictated by state law. Because the authority of a building inspector is pretty much established. I mean, because there's the state, you know, building and fire code, which the building inspector is the person that's gotta be trained and has to be the person to administer it. So there's not really an alternative to that. You know, code enforcement, you have the separate provision in here for code enforcement officer, which is a lesser standard of training. But here, you know, as somebody's said in other comments earlier, we don't have that big a staff. And that's why we have one person that has acted as building inspector, code enforcement officer, and zoning officer. If you're in the city of Schenectady, you have separate people in each of those titles. But we don't have that luxury. So,
Now, with all due respect, now, there was another section here tonight that I was concerned with as well, and that was the environmental chapter. Is there not any room for any cautious wording in there to where these departments cannot just supersede what the town board and the town
well,
law?
yeah, environmental is a little bit different than.
No, but I'm talking,
Yeah,
it's the
right.
same type of
That's-
issue where they have a lot of authority.
Right, because when you're in the zoning and
decisions.
planning realm, you do, the town board does specifically delegate that authority. Here, you really don't have.
the state laws preempted you from being in control of those,
Right. When they
those
dictate-
rights. They tell you, the code enforcement officer, the building official, the zoning official, this is what
Right.
you will do, and this is the code that you will administer. And that's what this particular law is dealing with. So you have less control here than, say, with the zoning piece.
I just don't like these different sub-departments
Oh, I'm with you.
being able to override the board and what our town people want.
I agree.
And that's where I'm coming from. And that's where I'm going. I think there needs to be some sort of wording that can be protective for the future, where we can eliminate that. But if there's not, I don't know, I just thought I would mention.
Like, you know, I think an alternative is if you don't want to pass this, you know, this week, if you wanna take another look at it. But I know that we have, and when we did go through it, there were, you know, certain things that we amended in here, but what I think your prime concern is about the authority. That seems like there's a lot of discretionary authority put in the hands of one individual. Unfortunately, that is the case, and there's not too much we can do about it. Because when somebody gets qualified as a building inspector, they get empowered to interpret the code and to make those decisions. What happens is people get to appeal the decision of the building inspector to the zoning board of appeals. And if people have a further dispute, they could take the appeal from the zoning board of appeals through Article 78 to Supreme Court. That's kind of the built-in protections that we have. But in the first instance, it is a little bit of leap of faith, but when you appoint somebody, you probably want to make sure you've got somebody that's going to follow the law and apply it correctly, and hopefully you won't have those problems.
So basically you're saying there is no remedy or no recourse for changing that?
Not really, when you look at, you know, how the state dictates who, you know, what the qualifications are and what that person in that position has to be able to do.
Would you want to table it and talk about it at the agenda meeting?
I would like to table it if the rest of the board is okay with that, just so we can be very clear that we know exactly what we're.
I think we all have to be of one mind on this, so I think that's a good idea.
If it would be okay, I would like to recommend we table that for, at least for a couple weeks till our agenda meeting.
So the 25th, till the 25th, you're okay with that?
Yeah, for our next meeting, yeah, when we can discuss it.
Okay, so table to 3/25. Very good.
What was the date?
2 weeks from tonight, 25?
25th March.
Chapter 29, Building Code Unsafe. Do I have a motion? It is hereby resolved that the town board of the town of Princetown hereby directs General Code Publishing to revise the building code unsafe chapter as reviewed and approved on February 25th, 2014, and prepare the necessary text for the local law for adopting in the new town code. Do I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Lou? That was Lou, Sandy Keys. Councilman Esposito,
Yes.
Councilman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski,
Yes.
Councilman Myers,
Yes.
Joyce is yes, resolution passed. Chapter 35, open burning. Do I have a motion that is hereby resolved that the town board of the town of Princetown hereby directs General Code Publishing to revise the burning open chapter as reviewed and approved on February 25th, 2014, and to prepare the necessary text for the local law for adopting in the new town code?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Do I have a second?
I'll second
Thank you, Lou. Councilman Esposito,
it. Yes.
Councilman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski,
Yes.
Councilman Myers,
Yes.
and Joyce is a yes. Said resolution passed. High five? Okay. Chapter 64, fire protection. The motion is hereby resolved, the town board of the town of Princetown hereby directs General Code Publishing to revise the fire prevention chapter as reviewed and approved on February 25th, 2014, and to prepare the necessary text for the local law for adopting in the new town code. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Second?
I'll second
Thank you, Lou. Councilman Esposito?
it. Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski?
Yes.
Councilman Myers?
Yes.
Joyce is a yes. Resolution passed.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob. Chapter 52, Environmental Quality Review. Do I have a motion? It's hereby resolved that the town board of the town of Princetown hereby directs General Code Publishing to revise the Environmental Quality Review chapter as reviewed and approved on February 25th, 2014, and to prepare the necessary text for the local law for the adopting of the new town code.
Could I make a recommendation, we table that one too, till the 25th?
Sure. Anybody else want to second that?
I'll second that.
Second motion? Okay. So, town clerk, fortunate if we could table that one to 3/25/14 also, that would be spectacular.
Who seconded that one?
It's not a second,
It's just tabled.
Oh,
it's just table.
sorry.
But if it was, it would be loose.
It's a motion to table.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
it was loose, so apparently that was wrong.
Motion to table.
I have to go back and read my Robert's Rules for Dummies. right, every year we do a audit, as required by law. So just for the rest of the board here and audience residents, where we go back and look at through all the checkbooks and all the accounts to make sure that the town board is in agreement, that basically that the balances in savings account, for example, haven't diminished, you know, occurred the interest. All the checkbooks are balanced. You know, what we have here is a couple exceptions as of the January 14th audit meeting, so we'll go through these right now. So I do have a motion that is hereby resolved, the town board of the town of Princetown hereby approves the results of the 2013 audit report with the following exceptions, and this is again as of January 14th, 2014. Water fund with its account number, the open checks at that time were 2227 and 2229. The water department with the account ending in 1050, there was no exceptions, everything is balanced out. Highway fund, 97, ended in 9790, there was none. The general fund checkbook had a number of open checks. All the 1130 payroll, checks 6097, 6148, 6158, 6164, 6170, 6192, 6194, and 6195. I also want to put a note on here that the town clerk is still, the town is still currently looking into unauthorized electronic funds transfers or withdrawals from our general fund account. As the town board may remember, maybe not, we did have 3 unauthorized electronic fund transfers from our general fund checking account. Again, unauthorized, so I guess we can read between the lines. Park fund, no checks, and then 6620, you know, that's a savings account. Miscellaneous trust and agency, not a checking account again, and then 9812. The general savings, again, it's a savings account, and in 7827, or 7826, excuse me. Capital account is not active. We should probably close that.
I mean, if you're looking at funding anything with bands,
Okay.
then you would use your capital account.
So we probably need to leave that open since maybe we'll be funding highway. Court fund, so this is number 2, note number 2. Again, my opinion, but the town board was unable to audit the 2013 court checkbooks and accounts, thus will not approve this audit on this account. Town clerk checkbook ended in 0450. The outstanding checks at that time were 2213 and 2214, and code enforcement at the time had an outstanding check of 1122 from his checkbook. So, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, this is the audit that we as a board did, correct?
Yes, sir, by law.
I'll second.
Thank you, Bob. Councilman Esposito.
Yes.
Councilman Gray, you have to abstain, right?
Yeah.
It's an abstain, Sandy. Councilman Drzinski,
Yes.
Councilman Myers,
Yes.
Joyce is a yes, resolution passed. General funds transfers, highway water. So please note there's a skip in the lineup here. Oop. Okay, I see what you did. Do I have a motion? There you go.
This is the water fund we're going right
No, general fund.
What's the general fund in here?
Right at the very end.
Oh, sign it?
Yeah. We already talked, about, we're gonna question, septic people. And I'd like to check the question, the rock guy too. To me, if he installed the lock, he should at least warranty it for 90 days and not charge us to fix it.
What,
Yeah,
that wasn't the lock that was bad. There was something else wrong with it.
the kick plate, or whatever it is.
Yeah, he didn't do that though. I was here when he did it. That wasn't, the lock was not bad.
No.
Not his work. Well, that wasn't his problem though. That was something that happened after, and Sandy can verify that, she was here when he did it. Am I correct, Sandy?
I was here when he fixed it, yes.
Yeah, and he said that had nothing to do with the lock, that he did changed the lock itself, is not what went bad.
Oh, I didn't hear him say that.
No, that's not what went bad. So, I mean, you can question him if you want, but I don't think that that's, I don't know, what was the price on it?
$75.
Yeah, well, I don't think that was not what went bad. I suppose you can probably tell him he'll deduct it, but that wasn't the problem. The lock itself was not bad. That was something else that went wrong with it.
All right, so do I have a motion? It's hereby resolved, the town board approves claims 32 and claims 45 to claims 80 in the amount of $62,815.61.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Second?
Where are we on that one?
Abstract.
We're doing resolutions.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm looking at,
And mine is the very last one.
yeah, 62,000.
Yeah. But there's 5 pages. That's tally up.
Yeah, I know.
He's looking for the actual locksmith guy.
Oh.
It's not on there, we took it out.
Oh, you took it out?
Took it out because we were gonna call and question it, and he's not open until this week, so we couldn't
Okay.
ask him.
All right, we'll go on to the next one, so. Okay, Bob had the first motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Esposito,
Yes.
Councilman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski,
Yes.
Councilman Myers,
Yes.
Joyce is a yes, resolution passed. Water fund. Do I have a motion that the town board approves claims 18 through 28 in the amount of $6,894.75?
So moved.
Bob, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lou. Councilman Esposito.
Yes.
Councilman Gray.
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski.
Yes.
Councilman Myers.
Yes.
And Joyce is a yes, resolution passed. General fund transfers. I'll have to come back to highway, because the highway was added on at the last minute, so it's probably a little further down the list, but we'll jump down to it. But general fund transfers, as we talked about earlier, the changeover and the recovery effort to get the town clerk office back up and running. We are gonna do, transfer in $3,000, which could cover the rest of the year. I talked to Sandy, laid out the hours, et cetera. And then we did purchase, before the stamps changed, a bunch of extra boxes of the forever stamps. So, we took advantage and saved, what was it, 3 cents or 4 cents a stamp that we, I do wanna thank Laura, because we did, as we were cleaning out some of the offices, we did find a stack of, I don't know how many envelopes, that had 39 cents each on them or something like that.
I think it was like 33 cents plus 4 cents plus 3 cents.
Yeah, so we couldn't fit any more stamps on to even use them. But surprisingly, Laura had came up with the idea, is like you can return them to the post office for 90% of the face value. So Laura took that stamp, those envelopes back, and we got $90.
Wow,
Yeah,
way to
so,
go, Laura.
so we actually, now Sandy's got a stack on her desk of old ones that we're gonna return for 90% of face value, so excellent. Excellent and good out-of-the-box thinking. All right, so again, the $732 was the pre-stamped forever envelopes, and then the $3,000 again in recovery and reorganizational duties, and then to refund for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I got a question about that, Mike.
Yep.
Does that include the month already for January that we spent?
Yes, yeah.
So this, the total for the whole year is gonna be $3,000?
No,
Well, you already had something in there.
right, we were, well, it's actually 3 months, for all 2 months, right? Especially tax season.
This is only for these 3 months.
Includes both, includes the forecast plus the recovery.
What happens after the 3 months? The budget is used up?
This hopefully should last us all the way to December 31st.
So in other words, she won't be used as much from here on out, probably, only when needed.
Well, there's, you know, so
There are
there's,
certain hours, it won't be as much as the last 3 months.
correct.
Yes.
Correct. I mean, so we were, yeah, as you guys know, we were in here scrambling like almost 4 or 5 days a week,
Right.
getting everything back up. So if that was a $1,500 expense, that $1,500 is in that 3,000.
For these first 3 months?
Right.
So
So that'd
for
be
the rest of the
$1,500 a year.
For the rest of the year, okay,
So it's what we spent plus what we forecast.
okay.
Even with that, you're gonna be a lot lower than you were in that line for last year.
Yeah, significantly lower.
That's good.
And I do want to highlight too that, you know, we are doing a lot of work with records management, the reorganization. We're gonna be getting, you know, I can't speak for what the final outcome will be of a records management law, but we do need to get rid of a lot of stuff, so there's a lot of stuff we need to go through too. So just for an example, today's Mike picked up 16 boxes of stuff. Laura and Heather have already got boxes of stuff in, you know, their office. I'm trying to take all my stuff and move it into Sandy's office.
The chair's going in my office, you get the box.
Heather and Laura get the chairs, but anyway. So that's what it is, Lou. I did break it down. I don't have it in front of me. I can show you the breakdown of,
Okay, no, I'll just, if that's it for the rest of the year, that's fine.
you know. Assuming no emergencies, of course, but yeah, that should be it. All right, so do I have a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Bob. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. I should probably read it though, huh? The motion is hereby resolved, the town board approves the following transfers in the amount of $732 from contingency fund to town clerk supplies for pre-stamped envelopes, and then $3,086 from the bookkeepers, and that's my line, right? That's the supervisor's bookkeeper line, to the town, deputy town clerk line, for reorganization and duties. So, I was wrong, Lou, it didn't come out of contingency.
Okay. I see that.
Should kick me. Councilman Lou,
Yes.
Councilman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski,
Yes.
Councilman Myers,
Yes.
and Joyce is a yes. I want to skip over a couple things here. When I was putting this agenda together, a couple things popped up right at the end, so I needed to, unfortunately, I had already put the action register in there, and since that's a Excel and cut and paste, it's a pain in the neck, so it's a little bit out of line here, so if it's okay with the board, I'll come back to general codification discussions.
Fine with me.
One of the items, and Heather can expand on it a little bit more, is one of the chapters coming up will be stormwater management. And right now, we reached out to Doug Cole to do a review of our proposed chapter in law, to make sure, you know, from an engineering perspective, that he's in agreement with, you know, with our proposal. But what he did suggest is that our drawings, our stormwater basin drawings are way out of spec. So Doug has offered to update our stormwater basins town drawings for a fee of $600. So I'm asking the board if they'd wanna consider this, as long as we're going through and updating, you know, all the laws and trying to bring everything up to spec, that we spend the $600, and pay Doug to go ahead and update the town drawings, to include updates. Because I think Nick actually mentioned before, you know, there's definitely some stormwater areas we need to discuss or highlight.
And the money's coming from where, Mike?
I'm thinking we're gonna take it from, George is in here, so we'll take it from George.
It's not coming from me, that's all I know.
No, I'm fine with it, as long as we're not gonna be cutting ourselves short somewhere, that's all.
No.
You know, we have quite a bit of the year yet to go, and I just,
No, you're absolutely on the mark.
if the funds are there, you know.
Yeah, I'll look at, either splitting it between the contingency and the contingency fund in the water fund. But I think it's worth it to have our drawings updated. So do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I guess I should read it right first, sorry. Do I have a motion? It's hereby resolved that the town board of the town of Princetown hereby directs Supervisor Joyce to approve the work order request for Doug Cole of McDonald Engineering to update the town's stormwater basins drawings for a fee not to exceed $600. So a motion by Bob Myers, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Esposito,
Yes.
Councilman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski,
Yes.
Councilman Myers,
Yes.
Joyce is yes. Resolution passed. Couple more, then we can drop back to codification. Organizational update. As part of our research in records management, and to officially certify that, you know, for FOIL requests and everything, we need to have documented a records access officer. So, as we'll see when we actually finally get to the records management update policy and eventually the law, which is a separate subject, but,
Same night.
yeah, same night. One of the things we need to go on record, you know, pretty much immediately, is that Sandy Fortune be appointed as a records access officer, so we're, you know, in compliance with records management, state, et cetera. So no fee, but it's just an official title. So, do I have a motion? It's hereby resolved, the town board of town of Princetown hereby appoints town clerk Sandy Fortune as the records access officer for a term to expire, or a term ending on 12/31/14. Do I have a motion?
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Joe, thank you, Lou.
She doesn't want it.
Sorry about that.
I wanna see where it says,
Anyway.
you know,
Choice.
let me check and see, there's no Sandy Fortune here.
Well, I checked with her, she said no, she didn't want it, so.
Councilman Esposito,
Yes.
Councilman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski,
Yes.
Councilman Myers,
Yes.
Councilman Joyce, or Supervisor Joyce. Resolution passed. Town clerk. All right, highway claims. This was a last minute ad, but, that's why it's at the end here, I had to squeeze it in, but, for the sand and salt, and also for some highway work for winter January. Rooter Drive, ice removal. All right, highway claims for January 2014. Do I have a motion, town board approves claim 1 in the amount of $3,069.43 for snow, 2014 snow, ice, and repairs and maintenance of road repairs.
So moved.
Oh, you know what, Sandy, I forgot to,
Yeah, that's all right.
second,
I'll second.
Joe. Councilman Esposito.
Yes.
Councilman Gray.
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski.
Yes.
Councilman Myers.
Yes.
Joyce, yes. Whoever he is. Highway transfer for 2014, here again, folks, we transfer, because we technically don't have a highway budget the way the water department does. So we could do a highway transfer. Do I have a motion the town board approves the transfer of $3,069.43 from account 99019 to account 5031 for the 2014 snow, ice, and repairs and maintenance road repairs?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Lou. Councilman Esposito?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Councilman Drzinski?
Yes.
Councilman Myers?
Yes.
And Joyce is a yes. Passed. If it's okay with the board, I would like to maybe drop back now, open up for public comment,
Yeah.
and then we'll take care of the rest of our business. So at this point, I'll open up the privileges of the floor again, at 8:45.
I have something to say. Pat Bishop, 318 Vernon Drive. You know, we're hearing a lot of what's going on in the town. A lot of new stuff, a lot of work is being done. We've got E-code, we've got, you know, technical guidance manuals being prepared. We've got, you know, records management, just a whole slew of stuff. There's a lot of people that are working very hard for the town on little or no pay. And one of the things that we used to do a number of years ago was to have a town appreciation dinner, where the town invited those folks that worked for the town to dinner. They could bring their spouse. The spouse, of course, had to pay. But it was a very nice gesture for people to get recognized for the work that they do. And, you know, free dinner, night out. And I'd just like to say that I think this is something the town ought to bring back. I think it brings people closer together, makes people, you know, aware of what everyone's doing, can get recognized. And I'd like to maybe suggest that we do it before Heather leaves, because she's certainly one of the people that's been doing more of the work around here, I think, than many people. So if there's any way that the town can do this, I would suggest probably sometime in May. I would be willing to work on it to help find a place to do this. And, you know, typically we used to have a speaker come in for the night and speak on some kind of topic for, you know, that'd be interested in the town people. I don't know how you're gonna fund it. There are maybe different pots of money, I don't know. You know.
Oh, you're not gonna fund it?
Well, you know, town board members could donate part of their salaries to cover it. That's a suggestion. But, you know, I just think this is a great way to kind of, you know, bring some of the spirit back of the town and folks working together and try to get past some of the stuff that we've been through, you know, in the past couple of years. So,
No, that's great. I
that's my
think,
2 cents.
I'm in agreement. Like I say, on all points, there's like I say, a lot of work going on, so. McDonald's be okay?
Wow. Big
McDonald's?
Oh, yes, right.
Someplace.
That's right up there with my feet. It's right in line.
Who's that?
When in May are you leaving there?
Oh, yeah, or Pete's Dogs.
It's on the second,
Oh, towards the end.
Yeah.
yeah, after the state.
All right, thanks, Pat. Any additional comments?
I like the idea.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think we should ever stop it to begin with. I think it's kind of a nice thing to do annually.
Yeah.
I had a question just with regards to the technology audit.
Mhm.
Did we ever try to figure out if we have an antivirus program on our computers here? Because the last time I looked, I didn't see evidence of one.
I
And-
don't remember asking the question. Actually, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to have that, you know, malware, whatever. If we don't, we're really at risk. We used to have McAfee, I remember seeing the little icon always pop up, and it, of course, would slow down everything, as McAfee often does, but I don't see any evidence of any antivirus on there, and that, I mean, that's certainly something on the sheet made sure was on our.
Yeah, so I'll
System.
send them a
I
note.
mean, maybe we do, and it's hidden, and I'm just not seeing it, but,
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
yeah. But you probably really should look into that pretty quickly.
Okay.
What are we gonna do with this, or,
What are we gonna do with it?
yeah, I mean, is this a, because I got a comment about that.
Okay.
I don't think we should do that. With all due respect to Heather, I think she's done an excellent job. I don't think we should be spending that kind of money when we got all these bills coming up. We have no idea we're gonna be talking $1,000 easily to do something like this. I think it's a waste of money.
All right.
That's my opinion. And like I said, Heather has done an excellent job. I have the utmost respect for her, but I don't think we should be spending the money.
But I don't think this is about Heather, if I may speak up.
Mhm.
Because I think it's what Pat said. I remember when I was on the zoning board of appeals many years ago, they had, Doug, you were the guy that organized it.
Mhm.
We would go down to the Turf Tavern. I mean, this is not a new thing in town of Princetown.
No,
I don't
it
think
hasn't been
we're-
done, it hasn't been done for the years that I've been on the board now. And the reason we stopped it was because of the money issue.
Well, maybe that's true. Doug, what do you remember?
They did it the last year I was there.
Yeah, but we did it.
Stopped after that.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't on the board then.
That's my opinion.
All right. Well, you know, at a minimum, we can take a look at it, and if there's a cost, we can see what the cost would be. Okay, okay, closed privileges then, is everybody done? Let's close privileges at 8:50. All right. So, let's open up our trustee E-code project, local law codification books.
Don't you think we should be doing that at the agenda meeting so that we can vote on it and get it discussed, rather than doing this at our general meeting? I mean, we've got a lot to do over here, we still gotta go into executive session. I
So,
mean, we're gonna be tied up here for an hour on this.
I'm okay, so, and I realize, I mean, I wasn't the one who laid out the schedule, you know, I wasn't necessarily clearly thinking, but, cause it was my idea, was to review a couple, next 2 weeks later, pass them, but technically you shouldn't be passing resolutions at.
On an agenda meeting.
Yeah, so I'm fine tabling this, but as I mentioned before, you know, we've got reviews coming up, we've got interviews coming up, and
I think that we should maybe set a separate date to do this C-code, if that's the case.
well, we're under a timeline, we're under contract, so there's a timeline we gotta meet. You know, we also need to consider that Heather is gonna be taken off, and Heather's kind of, you know, leading the cheer here, so,
I could just mention, the 3 chapters that are here, Heather and I spoke a bit about this mining chapter. If you look at what DEC does, we probably shouldn't even have that chapter. we don't get to regulate mining anymore. DEC took over the regulation of mining. You know, we can have something in our zoning code as far as where mining is, you know, allowed or not allowed, and whether it has, you need a special use permit for mining, but the stuff that's addressed in this section, that's all been preempted by the state now. Everybody that wants to mine has to get a mining permit from DEC. They don't get it from the municipalities.
So we can just scratch that one
So,
right off. the
yeah,
list.
we're gonna recommend that we delete that
So
chapter.
we have 2 mining operations in town. Is that still,
Well, they better have active DEC permits, because
Okay.
they can't, you know, they have to renew their permits with DEC. They're not, the permits aren't forever.
Mhm.
And when they do, DEC has a process, and they notify the town that this person, if somebody were to apply, or somebody's renewing, you know, they send you a notice, you get to comment. You know, if you have, you could have in your code as far as, you know, the considerations that DEC is gonna refer to anyway, like there's certain roads that you don't want the mining trucks to travel on, certain hours of operation, you know, stuff like that. You get to do that, and they'll put it in the permit. But otherwise, we don't do the permitting.
all right.
And even the enforcement section here leads back to the building inspector, who isn't gonna be responsible for that, based on,
Right, well, and the strange thing is this has some definitions that conflict with DEC definitions. So, you know, because they have, you know, minor or major project, which, you know, this stuff was written in 1979, and DEC overhauled the state law with the mine land reclamation law in 1991.
and is updating it as we speak.
And
Why didn't ECO just say, take this out?
that's what I don't
They
understand.
say also, the town should review these provisions against state law. I mean, they
Right.
should know that this shouldn't even be in here.
Well, we're free to do that as a town.
Yeah, and we can tell it, but I mean, it didn't really take, you know, a whole lot. I mean, if you just go on DEC's website and go into their thing on mining permits, they'll tell you exactly what municipalities are limited to regulating. And they say, okay, municipality, you can do zoning, you know, you can do a special use permit, that's it. Otherwise, you're out of the mining permit business.
And that's all handled in the zoning code, it's not handled here.
It's not,
So again,
so that one is a simple one, and the other 2 sections that we have here are also pretty simple.
Well, there's no
So-
changes to notice of defect.
Right, so this really wouldn't take an hour. If you wanted to look at them, you'd probably have, you know, 5 minutes on notice of defect, peddling and soliciting, probably not much more.
and I just want to caution the board, so we've already tabled 2, and if we table this, now it's 5. Our timeline is our timeline.
Well, if we don't have anything to do about mining, let's just scratch it.
Yep. Can we make a resolution on the fly to do that?
Joe,
Well,
it's you and Heather.
We'll bring the resolutions back on the 8th for whatever you discuss tonight, for you to actually have
Let's just scratch it.
final action. It's just to get your
Yeah, well,
comments.
right, but we would have an action resolution so that we all agree that we're gonna tell general code that we're taking this section out of the code.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so, okay, Doug? Joe?
If you say
Yeah.
the state's doing it, why should it be in there?
That's right.
Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Lou? Bob?
Yes.
Awesome.
Delete. Chapter 13, the recommendation, I guess, from Heather, Joe, and ECO, there's no change?
113.
113,
Yeah,
what did I say?
if everybody knows the notice of defect, if you haven't read it, that's basically to protect the town in instances of potential liabilities, so that if there's a pothole or something like that, and somebody drives their car through it and breaks an axle, doesn't mean that the town is liable, unless you got prior notice. You know, potholes crop up, particularly this time of year, all the time. You don't know it. And so that's what that provision does. It requires that you be on notice before you have any liability. So the town has a reasonable opportunity to repair the defect. You know, if somebody puts you on notice, and then,
You don't do anything.
right, a week or two later, you still haven't done anything, and somebody drives through that pothole, then they might have a legitimate claim. But otherwise, it gives you a measure of protection for you to have the notice of defect. And there's been no change in state law on this subject, so it's good as it is.
Okay.
Captain Lou, you good?
Yeah, I'm good with
Mr. Doug?
Yep.
Mr. Joe?
Absolutely.
And Captain Bob?
Yes.
Here, Lou, can you pass these down? Lou? Bob goes that way.
I wasn't even soliciting, just
Mr.
gonna-
Doug. And I might see it. Just something might be interesting, maybe, because I'd like to get town, not to change the subject here, but I'd like to get some training for the town board at some point, so. Especially if it's free. My favorite word. Okay, chapter 122, peddling and solicitation. Solicitation.
This is regulating people that most likely are gonna be going door to door, soliciting or selling. So, again, generally, the law has not changed here. One thing that you should be aware of, I don't see a real problem here, but that there are people that sell newspaper subscriptions door to door. I don't know why somebody would do that, but there have been instances where people do that. And this says that somebody that goes door to door has to pay a fee. There are court cases that say it's a First Amendment right for newspapers to solicit door to door, and it's an infringement on their First Amendment rights to have to pay a fee. So if that comes up, you can't charge those people a fee, but most municipalities still have their code saying this. They don't put any exceptions for newspaper peddlers on their,
that. What about fire departments?
well, that's in here.
They're
They already
charitable
have the
organizations.
charitable and not-for-profits are exempt. But,
A newspaper is a for-profit
right,
business,
it's
so.
generally a for-profit business, but the law has, or courts have looked at them differently.
Can you flip the page one more, Lou? Yep. Just one more page.
So really, the only two changes are the fee language was taken out to make it consistent with what we passed on the first night that we did this, that we're gonna set, you guys are gonna set your fees by resolution, which I will also make sure the resolution is ready before I leave too. That's also on my list.
You keep thinking you're leaving.
It's happening.
You see the change, though?
And the other one is to the penalty section.
That's for the peddling.
We just took out that language that when we found in the last law that, you know, less of whatever, and just left a, they wanted to put $250 here, but I think $100 is sufficient.
No, I don't see
Well,
it.
we can have up to 250, we just can't have the 6
Less.
months
Oh,
in jail.
so-
Yes,
Yeah.
Do you understand what she's doing?
so,
Okay.
if you want the number to change, I think $100 is sufficient for violation of this particular law, but it can go up to $250.
If somebody's still out going door to door, $100 I think would be sufficient. But
And that's all we're changing.
I'm good.
with, which one?
I mean, oh,
The fee.
The whole thing.
$300?
what do we have here?
On the penalty, general code had for a maximum not to exceed 250.
Oh,
I think $400 is,
yeah, $100.
that's more than enough, I think.
This is updated.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Hunter Beans?
Yeah.
That's because he didn't give you your copy. It was in his office. It was one of the things he's supposed to give you.
That's,
It's all on him, man.
I can,
All right, so, oops. Chapter 122, penalty soliciting, the fine will be $100, otherwise we're all good to go.
Yep, to me,
Doug, I'm sorry, good outline. Doug, Joe,
Yeah.
yeah,
Lou, Mr. Bob?
Yes.
All right.
those are 3 sections.
There we go.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you,
Great
Heather.
job.
So, at this juncture, I think we've covered everything. Can you just look out and see if Ben's still outside?
Yeah, you did, because he left his,
Yeah, I don't know if he's, we're gonna move into executive session,
so
so.
he's gotta take that off.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna move into executive session, to discuss some, future pending, well, not future pending, but possible future litigation, items, so. Doug, I know I talked earlier, I talked with you, considering the example we're talking about, I think it appropriate that, you know, possibly you recuse yourself from this discussion, if you're okay with that.
Well, if that's what you suggest. I work for William Larner. What do you want?
Yeah, so the litigation, or potential litigation that we're talking about involves Mr. Larnard. So that's why if you're working for him, generally, that would be a basis for recusal.
Basis for what?
For recusal, for you not to participate, so that you don't appear to be participating in discussion where you might have an interest, you know, because your employer, if he knew that you were participating in this, might attempt to influence you, or, you know, or maybe to have adverse employment consequences against you because of what you might discuss or vote on, or you might be seen as having inside information because you work there. Those are all, you know, potential issues
Let it go.
that you might not, that you would probably want to avoid.
Well, I guess I'll excuse myself.
All right, thank you, Doug.
Well, we would have to, that if we're moving into executive session, ask everyone else
Everybody
to,
else, yeah.
Everyone else is gonna make
Like that we did.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm gonna ask the board to go into executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I,
And it's only the board, sorry, folks. And thank you, Doug.
I will be right back.
how about Pat?
No,